Welcome to Truck Tech. I'm Thomas Wasson, and today we're talking about the medium and light duty EV space. We're going to be welcoming on the folks at Bollinger Innovations and Bollinger Motors. They recently had some news where they combined. Mullen Automotive got absorbed, and we're going to be talking with Jim Connelly. He's the Chief Revenue Officer at both Bollinger Innovations and Bollinger Motors about what they've been up to, and they also have some plans. We're going to dive into the EV medium duty space and what comes next, especially with all of the recent changes to both California's incentives, federal rebates, the whole shebang. So without further ado, let's welcome Jim.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Before we dive into all the moves and the names and everything, tell us a little bit about yourself and give us some of your background.
So I've been in the business for probably about 27 years. I worked at a large OEM prior to coming on with Bollinger Motors. Retired early from there after 25 years. Probably had like 17 different jobs within that large corporation. Coming to a startup after that, it was a great opportunity to kind of use everything that I learned in one of those large OEMs and kind of try to put it into practice and look at it from a ground up perspective rather than having to deal with legacy systems and everything that I had to deal with at a large OEM. So it's been a great time, building a team, setting up everything how I think it should be, right from an automotive perspective. So every day is kind of a challenge in a startup. So definitely different from that perspective versus a large OEM. But every day is a great adventure, and I like a challenge. So.
And this is one of the most challenging environments, especially over the past 2.5, 3 years. A lot of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the news. So there was Mullen Automotive has been rebranded as Bollinger Innovations. We also have Bollinger Motors. Let's talk about how all this, give us some of the backstory. Let's talk about the rebrand, the consolidation, and then what it means. And we'll dive into the nitty gritty afterwards.
So, plain and simple, there's all kinds of consolidations going on in the EV space, right? So, it affects us just like everybody else. And a couple years ago, Mullen invested in Bollinger Motors. We've been around for about 10 years on the Bollinger Motors side. We started with Robert Bollinger with a B1, B2, which is, if you look online, it's a kind of a military-esque kind of SUV. And so we were developing that product, saw a hole in the commercial market in the kind of the class 4-5 space, and we pivoted over to commercial about 3 years ago, and came out with the Bollinger B4, built and designed from the ground up on that product. We came in at a time with that product when the federal tax credit was out there. It was $40,000 on our vehicle, and it just made sense to kind of get into the commercial market. If you look at the growth in the commercial market, the projection was higher than it was on the retail from an adoption perspective. And if you look at EV, a lot of the companies have more of a depot type operation where vehicles come back to its centralized location. So it made sense to kind of focus on the commercial and then go after the retail and to use commercial to kind of fund the toys on the retail side of the house. So, and then from there, Mullen invested in us. And then most recently with the consolidation, we've done some cost cutting, some layoffs to kind of bring everything from a burn perspective in line. And that's reflected in some of the PRs that we've done in the recent weeks. And so now we looked at the two brands, the Mullen brand, the Bollinger brand. If you look at the branding, when it comes to the two, it made sense for us to move more to the Bollinger Motors. It's been in the market for 10 years, has a good reputation. It's got that black and white, badass kind of image, and it kind of stands out when you're looking at a sea of white in the commercial space. So the branding, we moved the Mullen Automotive and rebrand that Bollinger Innovations. With under Bollinger Innovations is Bollinger Motors, and then we will be bringing the Mullen product under the Bollinger Motors name. So the future products will be developed with the Bollinger branding on them. So currently we are phasing out the Mullen branded product with current inventories.
And with some of the stuff, when we're looking at the combination, what were some of the things that Mullen brought? What were some of the things you guys got as part of the consolidation? And then what can we kind of expect that you guys are going to be able to use from it?
Yeah, I mean, from Bollinger Motors perspective, it gave us a class, a little van as well as a class 3 vehicle. So now we can look at that segment. They're moving up to an electric class 4. That price tag can be a little steep sometimes. Having a product where they may not need the payload, it comes in at a little bit better price tag. It allows us to have a portfolio of vehicles to provide to a customer rather than just focusing on a narrow market of just class 4. Now, Bollinger plans in the future to have a 5 and a 6, but right now it allowed us to have that influx of that variety as we meet the demands of our customers from that perspective. It also allows us, two engineering groups and the technology that we have within both companies, and we're currently looking at the pros and cons of what that technology is on both sides, and trying to look at consolidating and picking the best of where we should be with that.
And looking at the difference between a class 3 and a class 4, I can go from light duty to medium duty. I've been brushing up on my medium duty game. I heard one of the big things is you make the axles, the drivetrains, the battery packs, and then somebody else puts the stuff they want on top of it, usually like fabricating. But like in the light duty space, sometimes it's like a Sprinter van or something where it's all. Talk about some of the differences between the 3 and the 4, because I think that a lot of times, especially in my reporting, everyone seems to think of the big class 8 rigs, but there's a whole part of the supply chain that has a lot of EV applications within those shorter hauls and those lighter duty types.
Yeah, there's a whole world around upfitting a cab chassis in that class 4, 5, and 6 space. Yeah, we design, engineer, and build the cab and the chassis, right? And then those vehicles then go off to what we call a body modifier or upfitter, and they put what product that the customer would need on the back. So if it's a box, it's service body. If it's a bucket truck, like for telecom applications, there's a myriad of applications, and it just makes sense to use that existing network that's out there in this particular space. The large OEMs do the same from that perspective. I did that and had those relationships at a large OEM. So coming here, I had the relationships and everything with those upfitters. So from that perspective, it's a group effort bringing a product to the end user. Now, in the electric space, it's challenging. You have to help and educate the upfitter on what are the differences to the product, right? It's not just sticking a box on the back of a cab chassis. Sometimes there's electrical implications to that, and now those vehicles had high voltage wires, so we need to make sure that who we work with as an upfitter are educated and can be able to provide a quality product to that. And then at the end of the day, everything funnels through our dealer network. They're key in that partnership with the upfitter as well as with ourselves. And between the three of us, we are the ones that are responsible for meeting that need and providing a vehicle that meets the demand and the vocational application for that product.
That's got to be a good opportunity. I was looking it up. Your all electric class one urban delivery one from the Mullen commercial side. That's one of the fascinating things because I think that folks, when we talk about fleet electrification, I got lucky to go to California this year. Lots of 70% of EVs on the market are these class ones vans. They're using them quite a bit. And then when we're looking at the class three and class four, having that kind of ability like return to base RTB kind of operations, what are we looking ahead on that? Is one of the goals for folks who are unfamiliar, not only with Bollinger but everything else? Do you make your own batteries? Do you when you're fabricating it, or how does it kind of work when we're looking to commercialize these things?
Yeah, when you're a startup, it's not in your best interest, in my opinion, to try to build everything. Even Ford and GM don't build every single thing that they assemble, right? I mean, the axles, come from Dana, and there's other individuals that have well-known names within the industry. Our batteries come from O&E on the Bollinger side and CATL on the Mullen side of the house. So you kind of try to pick partnerships are key. Supplier partnerships are key in this space, and so you want to have make sure that you have a good supply base in order to be able to provide that product, because you want a quality product. And so you try to partner with individuals that are best in the business, and that's what we've done to bring a quality product to market, as well as getting it to market fast.
And tell me a little bit more as well. There's been a lot of changes with CARB, but especially in the commercial space in states like California, there's been a lot of infrastructure development. What are you kind of hearing from customers when we're looking at, we've got the consolidation, we're getting production, we're going back online. What are kind of the growth areas between that class 1, 3, 4? And you also have some promos and teasers for possibly a class 5, the B5 and the B6. Talk about where are the areas that we're seeing in terms of fleet electrification. Is there a certain area that's getting more energy, or is it kind of a rising tide lifts all trucks kind of scenario?
Um, I would say there's some pros and cons to all of the things around infrastructure. I'm going to answer your question probably a little bit more broadly than what you asked, but I'll focus on incentives first. Incentives are key in this space as it's developing. There's areas of the country where they're doing better in infrastructure than in other areas. Some of the states are more proactive when it comes to providing not only vehicle incentive offerings, but also infrastructure offerings. And as an OEM, you have to make sure that you're educated on what states are offering these incentives or rebates to help with either infrastructure or for vehicle sales. It's so easy in my old life to sell a gas or a diesel engine, right? I mean, it was like, okay, here it is, I'm done. But now, we have to be an expert on not, all things electric, whether it's infrastructure, where it's government incentives, how to apply for this incentive. It is a tremendous amount of legwork associated with that. So I think one of the things that some of the states could do would be to kind of streamline that activity, to put some requirements around that and educate people better when it comes to that, and just states offering those incentives. New York has come out with a great one that we're working on right now. California just opened back up HVIP, and we have other states coming on line, Oregon, Washington, New Jersey. But there's not enough states that offer those types of programs. And so as a startup OEM, you concentrate on those areas, but would love to be able to supply everybody with those vehicles. But some of them need infrastructure and so forth, and some states just don't support it at this time. As far as customers, we try to focus on the customers who have like a depot or vehicles come back to a centralized location. We also partner with infrastructure providers in order to be able to help the customer with that conversation. In a lot of companies, whether that's large or small, everybody wants a sustainability program, right? But what does that mean? And that's not always communicated down to the fleet manager or the individual buying the vehicles. He's told from high above, you're now the sustainability person here. And he's like, okay, I bought gas and diesel engines for 20 years. I don't know what that means. And so there's a little bit of a paralysis, I think, when it comes to knowing what to do. And so I think some of the hesitancy is there. And so if an OEM can come in and help educate them and provide that kind of that come alongside partner in that conversation, then we can help facilitate that. And we've tried to partner with individuals that can answer those questions for them. So if they need a mobile charger, whether they need infrastructure, whether they need grant assistance, we try to provide all of those things for the customer. You can't just sell them a vehicle and then move on. So that's how we look at it. That's how I think I see the industry. Is it getting better? Are more people being educated? Yeah. Is it better than it was 2 years ago? Yeah. But you have the federal Inflation Reduction Act incentive going away on September 30th. Everybody's got to apply for the incentive before September 30th if they want it. It's just there's more that needs to happen in this space if we're gonna continue to grow. And emerging markets still need help in those areas. And that's what that's how I kind of see it. It is growing, but it still needs a lot of work.
Tell me about this California HVIP, the incentives for clean trucks and buses. So we've got by the end of September, the federal stuff is going away. For folks who are not as familiar with the stuff with California, I've heard it mentioned in a few other sustainability media areas. How big of a deal is this? Is this something where it could potentially like backfill it, or was this viewed as like I can get my federal, I can get my HVIP, I can like double dip my queso and my salsa? Talk to me a little bit about what that means as well for folks who may be interested in buying EVs, but they got to figure out the right way to help save a little bit as they're becoming these early adopters.
Well, I guess I'm opposed to the word double dip. In regards to that, I think there's offerings at a tax level from the federal government, right? So that's not an incentive off. So let's look at the different types of rebates or incentives, right? So the government incentive, the Inflation Reduction Act incentive, is a tax credit. So in regards to that, so it's not a reduction in the vehicle price, but it's a tax credit of up to $40,000, depending on your MSRP of your vehicle. So in the case of the Bollinger B4, it would be 40. If you're looking at a class 3, the GVW and the price on that vehicle is probably $7,500, somewhere right around in there. But there are other incentives that are kind of stackable on that. And so we try to tell the customer all those incentives that are out there. So the HVIP incentive is kind of an incentive rebate that's off the price of the vehicle. So the dealer can reduce that price of the vehicle and then go after and apply for the government to get that reimbursement on that incentive. But there's a lot of paperwork involved trying to get those through the system. We this past year, from an incentive perspective on HVIP, it went away in October of last year, just right after elections, and there was a lot of hesitancy on whether it would come back or not. And then it was supposed to come back in May, and then there was talk about June, and it just got delayed and delayed and delayed. And so it's finally kind of come back on board. And so in that case, that you have some people kind of waiting to see where it's going to go. So a lot of people kind of delayed in some of their fleet buys.
That makes a lot of sense. So incentives versus write-offs, because that's where I was getting confused as well. Man, I got to take advantage of that. If I had a little business, I could have that $40,000 with the depreciation in 1 year now. Just say I lost a lot. Give me some. That's very interesting. So that makes sense why it's such a big deal. Another question I get, and one of the things coming from your OEM background, it is very fascinating talking with EV makers because you almost have to be the champion for it. You're like a consultant, you're an operations specialist, you're a seller. And so on the infrastructure side and the charging, you mentioned targeting folks who already have bases. Is that one of the large challenges is like you said, you're the sustainability person, you got promoted, you're a purchaser for like 20 years of like diesel and stuff. How big of a deal operationally? Is that one of the harder questions? Is like, where the heck am I going to charge this thing and integrate it within my business? Is that one of the big hurdles right now as well for adoption?
Yeah, luckily in the 3 and the 4 space, you can get a relatively cheap level 2 charger, and it'll charge overnight. If you're looking at, some of the larger class vehicles, when you get into the class 8, you need, a huge infrastructure associated with that. They those batteries, need to be powered by a small city in regards to some of the infrastructure needed for those. So I don't necessarily have the disadvantage of having to have a large infrastructure. Because when you start looking at infrastructure, one of the holdups with some of the adoption is the utility companies can't keep up with the demand, right? So most of the buildings don't have the power associated with being able to charge those types of products in those large volumes. So when you start getting into fast charging and that there is some electrical that needs to come into buildings, and that can be quite expensive. It can be upwards of, anywhere from 50,000 into the hundreds of thousands, and then the delay in the utility companies trying to get to you because of the demand. So in my space, I don't necessarily have to worry about that as much. I could, we can handle some of our sales with, the installation of a couple DC fast charges.
And while we got a little bit of time left, let's promo. Yeah.
Level 2 charges as well.
So the level 2 charge, that's what I was curious about, because we're going to promo the B5. Y'all have coming in 2026, the Bollinger B5 chassis, some cool new announcements as well. Talk about what this means as well compared to the B4, because it looks like it's a really great opportunity. Is there anything you can share with us on details?
On future product?
Yeah, on the future product. It looks like the B5 commercial EV.
Yeah. So with the consolidation and the combining both the Mullen and the Bollinger Motors operations, we were using a facility here in Michigan. With the consolidation, Bollinger Innovations owns a plant down in Tunica. So the Bollinger Motors operation is in the process of moving our production down to Tunica, Mississippi. And so we'll probably be back online from a production perspective in Q1 of next year. So the B5 product will be in the late 26 calendar year, beginning of 27 from a class 5 perspective, and then after that would 8 months later would follow your class 6. And then we have a plan for strip chassis in between that. It's a class 5 strip chassis.
And will the B4, are those going to be also in the Mississippi plant, or will that be a different location?
Yep. So all of our manufacturing headquarters will still stay here in Michigan, but the actual manufacturing of our products will move down to Tunica, Mississippi.
Cool. Well, no, very excited to see. Definitely have to keep us in the loop as everything gets online. I mean, there's a lot of great moves in the EV space, and it's super excited to catch up. So congratulations on the new facility as well, and the rebrand. If folks want to learn more, especially as you all are continuing getting everything absorbed in the branding and the logos, where should folks reach out and learn more information about what y'all are working on?
Yeah, you can always go to bollingermotors.com. On there, there's a place where you can contact the sales team. We have the sales team out on the website. You can contact them directly. Would love to sell anybody some product that they might need. The product is really, really well manufactured. Our B4, anytime anybody gets in, butts in seats, they really love that product, and it is badass. That was one of the reasons I came to work here. So really love the commercial space and the product we offer.
I'm going to hit you up for a plant tour if you guys are ready to show it off. I'm going to have to come down to Mississippi. We'll bring a crew and get some cool footage if that's cool with y'all.
Yeah, anytime.
Perfect. Well, hey, Jim, thank you so much for your time. We'll definitely have to catch up again soon and go from there.
All right. Thank you.
That'll be a wrap for this episode. For those of you just joining us, we're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, wherever you can find your podcast needs. While you're at it, sign up for the Truck Tech newsletter. FreightWaves.com/TruckTech goes out every Friday. That's it for this episode, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you again soon.